How we doing, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Inside the Show podcast. I'm really pumped for today. I can't even lie, because for me, it feels like I have been taking a little bit more time off from podcasting. It's been a minute since I've come back to the mic, put my headphones back on. It feels kind of weird to sit here, but I'm glad I'm back. I took about 2 weeks, 3 weeks off, kinda, where I didn't really sit here and record anything. I was kind of just editing other podcasts I filmed a while ago, and those have been coming out. So feels good to be back, and I hope you guys are ready for another great episode. So, as always, we're going to get into the quote of the week, and this one comes from the book I'm currently reading still. It's called Achieving Life-Changing Success from Within by Sergeant Major Alfred L. McMichael. And again, it's not a really long book. I'm going to be completely honest, I have not been reading as much as I should be. And it's really just from reading other materials for school. The Bible's always in the loop. And yeah, I just kind of haven't been reading as much as I should. But from the past, so about 2 days ago, I read this quote in this book when I actually came back to reading it. And I really liked it. And I think I'm going to include it in here. So here's a quote from this book. Don't allow your mind to marinate on negativity. So the reason I love this quote so much is because of the wording of the actual quote. It says marinate. Now, in cooking terms, for me, if you guys, meal prep or do anything like that, marination, is that a word? Marination, marinating your chicken or your steak is quite helpful for the flavor. Um, and I think it's pretty important. It's pretty important of the cooking process, especially when food gets boring and you don't want to eat it anymore. And yeah, you can just mix and match spices and seasonings and things of that nature. But why I'm saying that is marinating is going to affect the entire taste of the steak, of the chicken, of whatever you're cooking, right? So let's say you marinate chicken, or let's say it's just chicken, but you marinate chicken in a bad seasoning or seasoning you hate or don't like at all. You're not going to end up liking the chicken, right? And I think you guys can see where I'm going with this now. So the seasoning is the negativity, right? And marinating also you could take into a terms of, you might marinate something for a day, 2 days if you're like smoking something like roast beef or whatever it might be. So marinating in something really long. So also like if you're marinating on negativity, you're spending a long time focusing on that negative energy. But in terms of seasoning, that negativity could be your bad seasoning and it could affect you as a person. You could turn out into a worse mood than you were before. And you don't want to ruminate too far and too long on negativity because eventually it's going to consume you. It's going to consume your whole entire flavor. It's going to consume the way you taste, and you don't want to taste like a bad steak. Nobody wants to be a bad steak. I hope this is making sense because I have it here written down in my notes and it makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. But I guess summarizing the whole thing is negativity could be the marination of the spices you choose. And the spices you choose could be positive or negative, right? And if you marinate in either one for too long, you're going to get a different outcome for each, right? You want the steak that's going to be nicely seasoned, well thought out, and it's cooked to medium rare, however you like it, and it has a great taste. Not marinating in something like negativity, for example, for a long time and getting, a really well done steak that you don't like at all and it's dry and it doesn't taste good. Because that's eventually what we would become if we spend too much time focusing on the negative part of things. So again, I really hope that made sense to you guys. Yeah. But yeah, to the title of today's episode, Chase Real Dopamine. Now, you guys are probably thinking, what do you mean by real dopamine? Well, that's why you clicked on this video. That's why you want to know. So there's no such thing as like quote unquote, real and fake dopamine, but there are in terms of like things to do to promote dopamine, there are good and bad things, right? And we all know like drugs, alcohol, things of that nature. So yeah, essentially, we're going to be talking about dopamine, what it is, how can you achieve the best dopamine possible, but in terms of a healthy way. That's pretty much what this whole episode is going to be about. And I'm going to talk about 3 points. Quick, simple, and easy to understand. Not like the seasoning chicken metaphor, but I think you guys all understand that. But so point 1, eating real food for not only performance, but for longevity. So, the way dopamine is produced, it's where neurons in the region at like the base of the brain produce dopamine in like a two-step process, right? First, you have the amino acid tyrosine, and tyrosine is converted into another amino acid called L-DOPA. I believe it's L-DOPA. And then L-DOPA undergoes another change as enzymes turn it into dopamine. That's how dopamine is created. And because dopamine is made from tyrosine, getting more of these amino acids in our system from our food could potentially boost dopamine, right? And boost dopamine levels in our brain. So some research suggests, I got this from Harvard Health, that there are specific, like different types of food that we could be eating that have tyrosine in this. So chemically, you could produce more dopamine by eating healthier things. Okay. Now, here is that list of food that Harvard Health actually lists here. And it's kind of crazy. We're just talking about chicken. So we have chicken and other poultry items, dairy foods such as milk, cheese, yogurt. Avocados are great, healthy fats, bananas, pumpkin and sesame seeds, and soy. So again, when you look at that list, you realize, oh, that's all pretty healthy stuff, right? And that's what I want to make my first point about is by eating these things, scientifically proven, we're getting that tyrosine in and we're creating dopamine, healthy dopamine. That's what this whole episode is about. Healthy dopamine, not real, not like fake dopamine. Okay. So if we focus on our nutrition, right, and we focus on the micro, the macro ingredients in what we're eating, that's in turn going to make us better. And it's crazy to think about too. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but whenever I don't feel like I'm getting the nutrients, I'm getting the nutrition that I need, I feel worse. And my dopamine levels feel worse. Like I'm not as energetic. I'm not in a better mood. I'm focused on the negativity sometimes, and I overall physically don't feel as good. I recently just went on I'll tell you, I went on a California trip, got to see some family. It was amazing, right? I was off plan the entire week, didn't eat the foods that I was used to eating. And over about the course of, I would say, day 2 or 3, I was really like feeling a little sluggish. I was like, I don't feel like myself. I don't have as much energy. And my body wasn't used to eating, in and out. Gosh, because, I'm from the eastern part of the US. So going over the western side and having in and out for first time in a long time, it's like, yeah, my body wasn't used to that whatsoever. So, and it wasn't prepared for it. And that's kind of where you start to feel like crap, at least with me. Now, I know some people that eat, fast food and stuff all the time might not be able to tell the difference. But I will tell you guys, as soon as you start getting on a diet, as soon as you start making healthier choices in choosing what you eat for your nutrition, I'm telling you, the difference is insane. Whether you choose these specific foods that I listed from Harvard Health, chicken, dairy foods, milk, cheese, avocados, bananas, soy, whatever it is, you don't have to choose or eat any of those. Would it be beneficial for you? Probably. But if you could eat anything else other that's considered healthy, like oatmeal is really good for you and it's not on that list. But I'm telling you, if you just make healthier decisions, you just make healthier choices in your diet, you're going to see a change, not just physically, how you look, but how you feel. I always tell people when I eat, I don't eat for how I look. And people look at me like, what are you talking about? Like, Ryan, you have some good amount of muscle on you. Like, of course you want to eat because of how you look. And that's true. But I would tell you, I would prefer to eat to feel good rather than look good, if that makes sense. And that might be hard for you guys to believe, but I'm a firm believer in food makes you feel good. Food is fuel. Food is fuel for your body and it's fuel for your brain. So just going back to that tyrosine, right? Going back to that amino acid chain. If we follow those recommended foods, we can enhance our dopamine, but do it in a healthy way. Now, again, with nutrition, you can include alcohol. You can include that stuff, right? I know the Philippines, some of the people, there are people that live to be over 100 years old there. They have some of the like craziest records of people living the longest. And they drink like a glass of wine. I think it's like once every couple days or so. So you can have alcohol. That's a thing you can do. And they say that's healthy. But for people that don't really seek out the natural, the meats, the produce, if you don't seek that out and you don't consume it, it's like you're being a product of your own bad decisions. And that's ultimately why you're going to fail. And I think it's so hard. I would say the diet thing is probably the most incredibly challenging thing to do because you go into like meal prep, you go into this like discipline thing, and if you miss one meal, you it's like the all or nothing idea where if I miss one meal, then everything else is out the window. I guess the whole day's gone. The whole day sucks. I've been there. I know how that goes too. So yeah, essentially, guys, eat better. That's like the overall what I'm trying to talk about here is just if we eat better, our dopamine is going to be increased anyway, and our energy production will be way better. So why not eat the foods that make you feel good? All right, second point. Now this one's interesting because I learned about this in one of my classes, and it's about avoiding instant gratification. Now, instant gratification decreases dopamine a lot. By pretty much the best way I could describe it, dopamine instant gratification decreases dopamine by creating unnaturally high spikes from quick rewards, right? And a great example I could give is social media. And then even going back to the nutrition, you could say sugar, maybe even like I would say video games too. I remember when I used to start when I used to play video games a lot, and I'd get a kill, I'd get so excited. I'd get a hit of dopamine like I was playing, Call of Duty or something, and I would get X amount of kills. Every time I get a kill, I get a dopamine spike. I'm like, oh, I'm on a roll. They go the triple kill. Anyway, but essentially, again, with social media too, you're scrolling. Every single like 5 to 10 seconds you're scrolling, your brain is constantly getting hit with instant gratifications on what it wants to see, right? And it's forcing the brain to reduce dopamine and dopamine receptors that manage that stimulation. So this eventually will cause, this is what I learned in school, staying school kids. Compensatory this causes compensatory downregulation, which is like following a massive dopamine surge, right? From a quick reward. And then the brain crashes well below like baseline levels, and it leads to a dopamine deficit stage, basically. And what happens is, just like the social media, like what we were talking about, flipping, eventually your brain's going to get so worn out, you're going to feel like you need a break. I can't be the only one who has scrolled before, and you kind of realize like, that time has really passed, and then you're like you kind of you exit out of that virtual realm, that virtual world, and you kind of just look around like, oh my gosh, then you get this feeling like you're overwhelmed, like of all the information you just took in, right? And that's what that dopamine deficit stage is. And it's so interesting because these quick rewards, like we want it now, instantly, right now, right this second. But when you create something, or when you do something, you're working really hard towards something, like let's say you're prepping for a bodybuilding show, that's a 6 month process, 6, 8, however long your prep is. The delayed gratification, the delay of getting what you want at that second, and however long it takes, it's almost like what I find interesting and what I've seen in recent studies is the longer it takes to get something, the more dopamine you receive when the moment comes that you get it. Like I was talking about with the bodybuilding show, that mine was 6 months. Others could be a lot longer, could be shorter. That dopamine hit will be crazy when you get on stage and get off stage, right? You're going to be on like this dopamine high for a week or 2 weeks. That mine was like a whole semester. I had a dopamine high. It was crazy. Now imagine somebody training for an Ironman. I've seen people on YouTube that are training for Ironmans, and when they do it, they say they're overwhelmingly filled with joy, happiness. That's dopamine. And it's natural and it's good because of the delayed gratification, because of all the work he or she has done to get to that goal. It could be, I saw somebody recently publish a book for the first time. This girl on YouTube, I was watching her. What was her name? Ryan Trahan's girlfriend. I don't know her name. I feel really bad. I'm probably going to look it up. Let me look it up here. Okay. Ryan Trahan's girlfriend. The only reason I know of her is because she popped up on my feed and she published a book, right? And she was at like a display for her book. She was giving like a presentation on it, or for its release. Oh, they're married. Never mind. Sorry. Ryan Trahan's wife, Haley Pam. I hope I'm saying that right. Haley Pam? Fam? I don't want to say fam. How do I say that? Well, Haley Pham. Okay, so Ryan Trahan's wife, Haley Pham, just recently published her book, and it popped up on my feed, and she said she was just overwhelmed. She said she worked, I think it was 5 years, 4 years on writing this novel that she wrote, and she said the reward she felt after writing it and how good it was received by the public, she said she couldn't process it all. She had such a high dopamine hit that when her book was released, people loved it. And she loved that they loved it because she worked so hard for it. And that's all what delayed gratification is. So whether you're working on writing a novel, whether you're running an Ironman, whether you're training for a bodybuilding show, I mean, it's endless. You hear it all the time. Even stories of underdogs in Disney movies and whatever it is. You see, like in Mulan, for example, when she reaches the top of that pole, right? And she's climbing up there and doing what no man would do. She practiced not every single day, but for quite a while to get to the top. That delayed gratification made that moment so much better. And it's unbelievable. We don't think about it all the time because everything can just be handed to us. Being, social media, being, fast food, that we have the food right here in front of us. Everything's so on demand now. We need it now. But we need to learn to take a step back and go, okay, well, here's what I want. Here's the plan on how to get it. Let's go get it. And then when you achieve it, that's when the biggest dopamine hit happens. Just this last couple days here, I went on a run. And I'll tell you, it was a pretty good run overall, but I was overwhelmed with the fact that how well the run went. Because I'd been working towards this pace for a minute now. Like, it's been a while since I started running. So a good, I want to say 5 months since I started running. And I finally hit a goal pace for 3 miles for a 5K. And it was like 7:50, which is pretty hard for me, But I remember when I finished and I looked at the time, I couldn't believe that I'd done it. Started at like a 9:38, 9:45 pace starting 5 months ago. And it's crazy to think, like, getting out of your bed, forcing yourself to go run, you feel different after you work out. And that leads me into my third point: exercise and move your body. Now, a lot of, the big theme, a lot of what I talk about here on the podcast is a lot about exercise. And that's partly the reason why a lot of you guys listen to it. And we sometimes dive into, mindset, performance, um, resilience, motivation. That's always going to be there. And I love talking about that stuff. But getting down to the nitty gritty and just doing something, just starting to exercise. And it's crazy to think, going back to our dopamine spikes, and, it's insane. You see it all the time. I ran into a guy at the gym the other day, and he's about a good 300 and some pounds. I would say probably close to 350. He's a pretty big guy. And I remember coming up to him and I said, "Hey man, proud of you. Like, I'm proud of you for being in here." Because I'd never seen him in there before. And it was nuts to see, because he came up and he gave me a hug. Said he's like, "I haven't heard that in a while." I'm like, wow, holy crap. All I said was proud of you. I said 2 words. And this guy like melts. And I don't just say that just to say that. I'm saying it now because that was a couple months ago. And now he's lost 25 pounds. And he's on the road to losing way more than that because he has momentum. And he's saying to me, I see him, I don't know, maybe once a week now. And every time I see him, I ask him how he's doing. And he looks at me and he goes, "Dude, I feel amazing." He's like, not only do I look better, I feel great. And that's what it's all about. You guys notice, like, the whole reason why we work out sometimes is to literally relieve stress. All the emotions, the pent up anger, sadness, whatever it is that we're bringing into the gym that day, we're getting rid of it all. We're working through our emotions. We're working through our stress, right? And it's a dopamine release. I've never met somebody that goes into the gym, comes out of the gym feeling worse than when they went in. I've never met anybody like that. And if you are feeling like that, please send me a DM. I will more than happily help you out with that, or seek professional help. Call somebody, text your friends. We're always here for you guys. But again, I've never seen, even if somebody is depressed, right? Going to the gym, running, doing like swimming, biking, doing any form of physical activity can relieve that stress. Therefore, enhancing your dopamine levels. which will in turn increase your mood. It's just building blocks over and over and over again. The more you work out, the more dopamine you have, and your brain is going to keep using it. It's your choice if you want it to destroy you or keep you going. Don't seek that quick fix. Don't seek the social media. Don't seek bad fast food. Don't seek, instant gratification. And don't seek not to move your body. Don't seek to be lazy. Eat real food, avoid instant gratification, and exercise. These 3 things, I guarantee you, are going to help you increase your dopamine. That's pretty much all I have for you guys today. Simple message, but I've seen this trend been going across my For You page and just like other like social media platforms where people are talking about chasing real dopamine. And I think these 3 points here I got for you guys are probably some of the best, either scientifically proven or they're backed by me. I feel like I'm a test subject. I've done these things and they're working for me. So I'm just trying to pass on that information for you guys. So like I said before, eat real food, avoid instant gratification, and exercise. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. So I've changed my schedule. It's been one every 2 weeks just because of how busy I am with school, my other job. So yeah, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace.